Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're listening to the Ask Brien Radio Show, AskBrien, on 98.7 and 1220 KHTS. You're listening to the Ask Brien Radio Show. Now, for those of you who have never listened to the Ask Brien Radio Show, I don't know what to tell you. I think it's a great resource for people to learn anything about business. One week we may be discussing Facebook advertising for the furniture store. The next week we may be talking about coaching. We may be talking about reputation management. We may be talking about how do I get more customers, more sales, how do I balance my checkbook. Anything that will help your business, that's what the Ask Brien Radio Show is all about. Each week we select a CEO or startup, somebody who has background over 4 or 5 years minimum experience in something that can help your business grow or help your business start. And Ask Brien, AskBrien.com is the website that sends all the people to the Ask Brien Radio Show. Ask Brien is very, very similarly situated to the radio show. Ask Brien has experts that will answer questions as well as a business community. So you can have the business community answer a question. Hey, I'm a dry cleaner in South Carolina. I'm a dry cleaner in Alaska. Somebody left their fur coat. What do I do? Well, the laws may be different from state to state, but the situations and the problems and the common sense, they apply to any business community member. But then you might want to say, you know what, I need to get an expert to answer this question. It's a really important question. I need to get an expert. Expert must have typically a minimum of 10,000 hours, which means a minimum of 5 years experience in one specific area before you allow them to become an expert. Experts are allowed to post videos, their blogs, ebooks, and their webinars and put it on a webinar schedule so they can so you can go ahead and watch a webinar on a specific subject at any time. That's what the AskBrien.com is all about, and AskBrien.com filters in and is an affiliate with the Ask Brien Radio Show. And without any further ado, I'm going to introduce my great co-host, Alex Grossman. Alex, are you there?
Mr. Brian Johnson, always a pleasure to hear you announce so vividly today. Yeah, I'm here today and just excited to have a great guest today that can help a lot of businesses, answer some of the questions and how to grow and maintain that business and bring it into the 21st century. So it should be fun today.
Every show should be fun, but not only should each show be fun, it should be a learning experience, and you should be able to listen to somebody that may at some day be announcing for professional boxers and wrestlers. That's me. And I've got a lot of experience by just introducing you, Alex, but now I'm going to introduce, with a lot less ado, a very, very distinguished individual who has a lot of experience in a lot of backgrounds in business, but the primary focus that we're going to discuss today is lead generation and landing pages. And without any further ado, John, are you there?
I'm here.
All
Thanks,
right.
Brian.
Well, so for those of you who don't know who John is, I've worked with him in the past. I know him very well, and I'm great that he's going to be on our show today. So, John, for the viewers that don't know you, let me get a little bit about your background. I know currently you're with a company called Lead Scientist, but before you were there, let's go a little bit about your background. I don't need to know, when you graduated second grade, but let's at least go into your working career and your background.
Sure, no problem. So most of my professional career has been spent in the franchise world. I ran development for Choice Hotels and their 7 brands for about 7 or 8 years, and I left there and became a franchisee. I went out and developed, owned half a dozen hotels that I sold in the early 2000s. And once I got out of the hotel business and sure didn't want to go back into it, I didn't need 400 employees again and $42 million worth of real estate debt. I started looking around at another business to start and realized from my old franchise sales days that there was not a very good tool out there to develop highly qualified leads for franchise companies. So instead of buying a business or buying a franchise, I hired a software company, and we put together an email and digital marketing platform primarily geared around generating highly qualified leads for franchise companies. And what I thought I was starting was a marketing company, but only to find out that I was starting a tech company without a lot of technical experience, to be quite honest. But I took it to the franchise world and was very warmly embraced. And we still do lead generation for over 300 franchise companies, everybody from Allstate Insurance and Little Caesars Pizza and Expedia down to small startup franchise companies. But over the next few years, we got pushed into different verticals because our secret sauce is we have this huge email database that we can filter 325 different ways. So we can filter for, it doesn't matter the type of business or school or organization, we can filter for their exact prospect profile and deliver highly targeted emails to those folks. But we got pushed into different verticals. The first thing was private schools, because I happened to be a trustee of my kid's school, and we were losing admission during the recession because it was really hard to justify paying $25,000 to send your kids to private schools when you've lost your job. And so we used our lead generation tool, and we filtered for the proper family profile within a certain distance of the school, started our email and other marketing towards those folks, and all of a sudden we had new students. And then same thing with country clubs, and now we do everything from live aboard scuba boat based in Tortola to my own proctologist that gives colonoscopies. So it's really built around delivering highly qualified leads to small businesses.
So where did you get the database from?
So data in the data world, I can take you into the sausage factory of the data world, but you're never going to be the same, Brien. But here goes. We host a lot of different websites. We use a lot of different sources. But in every case, when somebody opts in, and it's always a double opt-in process with us, when somebody opts into our data, they have a clear knowledge and agreement that they're going to receive marketing emails. Now, what is really important is to know with each particular contact, what type of marketing emails do they want? For example, I'm a huge golfer. I play no tennis. And so if I get a email about the most recent set of golf clubs that are out this year, I'm going to open that up and read it because I'm really interested. But if I get an email about the newest tennis racket, I'm going to hit the spam button because obviously somebody hasn't done their homework and realized that I don't play any tennis. But our database is a living, breathing thing that we keep up to date. It's highly hygiene before it's used for any client, but it's very targeted.
So if somebody says, "Hey, listen, I have an XYZ business," and they come to you, what is your first step to determine how many people in a database that person you have access to, or how does that work?
So when we secure a new client, every new engagement is always started with what we call a prospect profile call or meeting. So if we get for example, an orthodontist that comes in as a new client, we will sit down with that orthodontist and say, okay, what type of family, what age of children, what really makes a great prospect for your practice? And then we'll go back to our database, and we'll filter for the email addresses of parents of kids 8 to 18 years old, where they have a household income where we know that they can afford to put braces on their children. So it's a very, very targeted engagement, and that changes with every client. Their exact prospect profile is going to change from an orthodontist to a sporting goods store.
It's interesting because in the many years in companies that I've started and run, it's always easy when you're first running the company to get, the initial amount of leads. You have friends, you have family, you have referrals, especially in local business. People know you. Maybe they drive by your brick and mortar store. They see what you do. Hopefully you've done a good job of marketing it. Maybe you have local, radio marketing, which is fantastic. And you can do all those type of things. But eventually, when it comes to leads and getting these things, I always found it's really hard to, as you said, be cognizant of what works and what doesn't work, right? You send an email to people from a list that you get, and you may not target that email right, and people will do that today. They'll hit the spam button. And so I think the things we used to do, years ago worked, but I think things have changed now, and the way you address them has changed. And I know you've been doing this since 2008. So if I go back, it's over 10 years, and I look, what's really changed and what's effective today that was effective, and what's not effective today that was effective before? Can you give our listeners an idea about that?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot has changed over the past decade. People are much more protective of their email box today, and they don't want the clutter. And that's why, just like you're talking about, Alex, it's really important that you're delivering a message that they want to hear, that they're interested in. And the other thing you can't do that originally you did 10 years ago is you can't bang on people email after email about buy my product. You have to provide some educational content so that you're relevant with them. So, when we end up with an orthodontist as a client, it's not an email every week or depending on the frequency about, hey, I want you as a patient. You have to put some educational content out there. You got to talk about the new Invisalign type of correction or health, children's gum health, or whatever it might be. But it's no longer a situation where you can just continually bang on people about buy my product, buy my service. You have to stay relevant with these folks, or they do hit the spam button or the unsubscribe button.
Yeah, and so have you found that if I'm a small business and I'm doing this myself, have you found that people are effective? Well, I guess what I want to say is that I spend a lot of time in my business doing what I do in my business. I don't spend the time going out getting new business like I probably should. But do you find that people can do these personal emails and get the business, or do you think using a service like yours, where you get a lot of these, you're going to get more, you're going to basically get more leads or a greater number of leads per the number of emails you send out? How does that ratio work, and what's the ratios look like? I mean, you know where I'm going with it?
Yeah. So there's all kinds of studies out there about return on investment with email marketing. Depending on what study you read, you're going to look at anywhere from 35 to 45 to 1 for email marketing. But like we've talked about, it has to be very targeted email marketing. That marketing has to go to somebody who's very qualified to use that product or service that you're introducing. It's extremely difficult for a small to medium-sized business to be able to do email marketing on a scale that is going to get that type of return. Access to the data is very difficult, and so what you find is a lot of small businesses will end up with just really poor quality lists, and then when they start to deploy it, they basically get thrown in the trash can by the internet service providers, because they realize that they can quickly realize as a list starts to deploy that it's a poor quality list, and they don't want to deliver email that is not relevant to their clients or their readers as well. So it's we have a lot of people on staff that are email delivery experts that keep track of the trends. Spam words change all the time. We had, I don't know why this happened a couple of years ago. There were a couple of spam filters that ended up putting the word restaurant as a spam word, and we're sitting here with hundreds of restaurant clients trying to describe a restaurant without using the word restaurant. So you really got to stay on top of it, and it's constantly moving. But again, done correctly, it's one of the most effective and inexpensive forms of advertising that a small business person can utilize.
And so I want to touch.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I want to touch back on one thing before we go away from that, before Brien jumps in. You said 45-1. So if I'm a small business and I have my list of people, let's say I bought it, I acquired it, yellowpages.com, whatever it was, you're saying that to get a response, assuming you did the email right, you're going to send out 45 emails just to get one response, assuming you did a good job, right? So how does that work? And could you do a better job than I could? Is that why I would hire you? How would that work?
No, the 45-1 is for every dollar you spend, you're going to create $45 in revenue with a strong. Yeah, that's the return on investment with email marketing, depending on whose study that you're reading. But it's an extremely efficient and inexpensive and great return on investment. But again, it has to. You can't be delivering the tennis message to me because it's going to go right in the delete button. So it has to be very targeted.
Well, that's really exciting. I'm glad you clarified that. So when you're looking at very targeted, you have a team of people you said on staff to do that, and they're constantly working on new ways of being able to address this. If I just go out there and do it, will I know that I'm effective? Let's say I don't hire you and I just do my own email marketing campaign. I use one of the tools that are available on the internet to do that. How do I judge my effectiveness? Am I just gonna fail, or am I gonna maybe hit it? Is there anything that makes me more effective than I would if I just did it on my own?
Well, there's a lot of tools out there that you can use that will enhance your probability of there's the big email self-serve programs like Constant Contact and MailChimp and that sort of thing. With all of those, however, you are not going to be able to go out and purchase a list, and quite frankly, the majority of small business people can't purchase a good quality list. I mean, you can go on the internet and you can buy 1 million email addresses for $100, but you are absolutely going to get what you pay for there. But back to your point, the Constant Contacts and the MailChimps of the world, they're very good self-service tools. But typically a small business, small, medium-sized business are going to use those tools, and their email list is going to be their existing clients. So they're going to stay relevant with their existing clientele, or upsell them, or sell them reoccurring products and services. What we're talking about is introducing a business to qualified prospects that are currently not using that business. And social media is much the same way, and social media is fantastic, but typically you're using social media to reach out to your existing customer base, not to bring in new customers. But just like you said, most small business people, they get so involved in their business, and this is a whole different skill set and expertise to be able to reach out to qualified prospects that they're currently not doing business with.
We're going to have to hold that thought. We're going to be taking a quick break. We'll be right back.
Theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top-quality musicals and plays. Located on Main Street in Old Town Newhall, CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go online to canyontheater.org.
Your building sign is essential in getting customers to your location. Feathers can help get your business noticed. They walk you through each phase of your building sign project, providing special attention to detail and quality. Feathers will give you a sign you can be proud of. Your building sign will draw customers in instead of having them drive by. Feathers on Soledad in Canyon Country, across from the Edwards Theater. Or go to feathersphoto.com. That's feathersphoto.com.
Hey, cybercriminals stole the W-2 forms from my friend's company.
Yeah, scammers impersonate CEOs in email and also launch attacks from compromised accounts.
What if they target us?
Don't worry. We have Barracuda Total Email Protection.
So we're secured?
Yes. Barracuda protects businesses of all sizes with artificial intelligence that blocks spear phishing, account takeover attempts, and business email compromise.
That's a relief.
Protect your business at Barracuda.com. Barracuda, your journey secured.
Hi, I'm Mike Ditka. On the field, they called me Iron Mike. But some days, even Iron Mike can feel a little rusty. So I turned to Blue Emu. Blue Emu's non-greasy, deep-penetrating formula gets down deep for big-time comfort. And more importantly, it doesn't leave me smelling like a locker room. Now, if you excuse me, I have some yelling to do. You hit like old men. Blue Emu. It works fast and you won't stink.
Your hometown station.
Welcome back. Ask Brien, AskBrien.com. That's the Ask Brien Radio Show associated with AskBrien.com. And we've got a great show today. We've got our co-host, Alex Grossman, and the wonderful guest coming in from Max Mike Customers, Mr. John Jorgenson. Are you there?
No, I'm still here.
Well, that's great. You survived, number one.
I don't like hearing the 60-degree temperatures out there when it's 32 degrees here in Baltimore, though.
Well, we think it's freezing cold, so just to let you know. Everything is relative in this life, right? So a couple questions we have for you. And some of our users have been trying to get this information. So if somebody wanted to use your services, and it doesn't have to even be your services, but just to go through an email marketing, it obviously has to be online. They're going to have to buy a list, okay? And they're probably going to have to create some place for people to go, either the website or a page or someplace where they can get more information. And so how would you do that if, for instance, you owned an ice cream store? Let's say I own a Baskin-Robbins, and I want to get more customers, and I'm willing to give off a $1 off coupon. How would you take that and make it into an active campaign to try to get more customers for that Baskin-Robbins?
Absolutely. So you touched on it, and you mentioned something that may not be real familiar to a lot of small businesses, which are landing pages. And basically, landing page is just a fancy word for saying a one-page website. But they're also single-purpose, which is really important. So you're talking about doing email marketing. You're going to reach out to somebody, and even though they've given you permission to email them, you're reaching out to them somewhat unannounced, somewhat with a message that they're not expecting. But it has to resonate with them quickly. You've got about 8 to 11 seconds to grab somebody's attention and create enough interest to get them to click through to what we're talking about in terms of a landing page. So you really need a very short, distinct, what we refer to here as scannable, where somebody can look at your messaging and scan it and get it immediately, and it creates a buzz. And so some of our clients, when they work with us on email copy, they want to try and sell their product or service in the email. That's a huge mistake. We'll have. I told you we do a lot of private schools. We'll get back from a admissions director a marketing email that's 3 pages long, and we throw it back at her and say, get this down to 3 sentences, and then we'll give it a shot. And that's all you've got. You've got 8 to 11 seconds to get somebody's attention, and you're not trying to sell them your product or service in the email. You're trying to get them to click through to a landing page or a one-page website like we're talking about. Now, when they do that, you have to make sure that it's a seamless visual presentation. So that same logo in your email, the same HTML colors, when they're clicking through, they immediately see, oh my gosh, yeah, I recognize this. They were just talking about this. And so, they're clicking through to a landing page that is also scannable. Immediately they get a call to action. So, across that landing page for that ice cream shop is print the coupon by clicking here. Whatever the call to action is, but same colors, same logo, same everything, so that the person realizes that this all flows together seamlessly. The message has to match up, and it's okay to use multiple landing pages for different campaigns that you're going to run, but the message has to match up. That message that you're trying to deliver in that email marketing has to match the message when they hit your landing page to get a good conversion. And there's a bunch of things you can do on landing pages to increase conversions. Video is very important. Video is extremely easy to make these days, inexpensive to make. You can host it on YouTube. You can put it right through onto your landing page, but it's got to be short and sweet. It's got to deliver that consistent message that you already introduced in your email. And so, as a small business owner, you have to spend the time to make sure that you can't have somebody click through from an email expecting $1 off on a ice cream cone, and they click through and it's buy 4 Sundays, get your 5th one free. It has to be seamless presentation, seamless colors, seamless logos, seamless messages as they're going through the entire process. And you have to keep it very focused. You don't we like to say all we want is the daily special. We don't want the whole cheesecake menu in our marketing message. All we want is the daily special, because that's what's going to get the activity going.
Now, one thing that you talked about earlier, and I still, you talk about these lists and getting these people that are, have already subscribed. But if you're trying to get new customers, okay, these people may not have been your customers in the past. If they came to a company like yourself or a similar company, how are they going to get these people and not deal with spam?
So, yeah, that's the really difficult process for the small business person. We're the only company that has brought what's called big data down to made it available for small business at an affordable price. Big box companies have been doing big data programs, since emails started. The BJ's of the world and all the big box type of retailers. But that's the really difficult thing, is to be able to scale down to a small business owner that only wants a list of 15 to 20,000 qualified folks in their specific trade area. And that's why, quite frankly, a lot of business owners, hundreds and hundreds of business owners, just turn this completely over to us. That orthodontist that I talked about before the break, he doesn't make a dime unless he's got his hands in some kid's mouth. And he sure doesn't want to spend the time or the effort, and he doesn't have anybody on staff to go out and try and learn about email marketing and what works and what doesn't work, and landing pages and that sort of thing. So it's a great business. I mean, to be able to take a small business, introduce them to new customers, and just have them run their business and let us run their marketing has really, really been rewarding over the years.
But when you send out, okay, so somebody says, I don't have any customers, I'm starting out, or I have a customer database, but I'm trying to add more customers to my database lead. And I have this ice cream store, and I'm willing to offer $1 off. So first of all, you've got to compile a list. I guess you filter it out to determine, what people in that area might want to get an ice cream cone, okay, and might be interested in the discount, I guess. And you're coming up with this list. But these people have not been contacted by that small business owner yet. And so there's a chance that it could be considered spam. We don't know. What criteria, what are you putting in there in the list to try to create this? And what are you putting in an email so that they're not like, oh, great, this is just another ad?
So it really starts with the filtering of the list by not including people that are not going to find the messaging interesting. And you're never going to make everybody happy. But if you're doing a good job as an email marketer, you are making sure that list is made up of people that have the propensity to use your goods or services and will not be offended that you're making the introduction, and they're going to find it interesting and want to learn more about your business, want to learn more about your goods or services. So that's very important. The other part of it is there's the CAN-SPAM laws. There's certain components of these emails that have to be there. There has to be an unsubscribe button. There has to be a physical address of the business. There's a number of things that have to go into that. Now, your self-service platforms like Constant Contact and MailChimp and some of the other ones, they're going to make sure before anything is deployed out of their shop that everything is CAN-SPAM compliant. But you definitely have to consciously make sure that you're abiding by those laws.
Now the CAN-SPAM Act is what? That's what, about 2004, in the last 20 years, correct?
Yeah, I think it was actually before that.
And so you have to deal with that issue. Now, I guess in your business, even if you're getting thousands and thousands of emails, there's got to be some people that are saying, hey, it's spammers, or doing that. Not everyone is sitting there and saying, oh, thank you very much. when you get your list, are you buying them from somebody else, or you compiling them on your own?
We compile them ourselves, like we talked about earlier. We host a number of websites, and we make sure that when people opt in, that they realize that they're going to be receiving marketing emails. And during that process, they also tell us what they're interested in. So we know that they're a golfer versus a tennis player, and so we know not to send them emails about the newest, greatest tennis racket. And that kind of intelligence is very valuable.
You said you're at 325 filters, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
So when you say filter, give me an example of 2 or 3 different types of filters that you have that people could pick and choose from.
So, one perfect one would be the age of children. There's a lot of businesses that evolve around wanting to market to parents of specific age children. Certainly all our private schools do. We have some schools that are, kindergarten through 4th grade. We have some schools that are only senior high school. So, you take a school that's only a senior high school, marketing to parents of a 3-year-old does you no good. Other filters are general interest filters. Is somebody interested in fine wine? Does somebody invest in real estate? There are a number of filters. Now, every email address and every piece of data, we don't have 325 pieces of intelligence associated with that email address. So, that's why we carry a very large database. But as we get more information on people, we'll append their record with their likes and dislikes, and whatever their status is.
So then you do not buy any lists. That's correct?
We do not. We do not.
And how do you control that? So, for instance, what if there are 5,000 Italian restaurants in one 2-block radius? Okay, you're able to sell and do email marketing for all the restaurants in that area, or do you have to say, you know what, I'm going to hit saturation at some point, so I can only go so far?
We work through a network of what we refer to coaches that we have around the country that work one-on-one with the business owners, and we don't like to get to a place where there is that kind of saturation, and we would be over saturating somebody's email box. So, we use good common sense. Now, in a particular market, people are going to eat at more than one Italian restaurant, but we certainly aren't going to take 3,000 Italian restaurants as clients. We often get clients, that want some exclusivity within a certain geography, and if they're willing to pay for that, we're willing to give them that exclusivity.
So those 325 filters, I imagine part of it is based on verticals, correct? And then obviously, but it's just not verticals. It's also demographic. There's got to be other things within that to make that type of an amount, correct?
That's right. That's right.
And so how do you pick and choose?
How do we pick and choose for a particular client?
Right. So I'm the Italian restaurant. I'm in Bleecker Street in Manhattan, right? And I want to do an email blast because I want to get my list to be bigger than it is. And I'm going to start off with 20,000, okay? How do you pick the 20,000?
So we would sit down with the owner of the restaurant And the first thing we're going to do is talk about geography. What's a logical commute to that restaurant? How far would you expect somebody to drive? And they may say, gosh, I only want to go 5 miles this way, but we can go 20 miles that way. We can slice that geography up pretty finely with our tools, and then we start to take a look at the demographic of their restaurant patron. Start out with age. Start out with gender. Then we'll further move on to household income. We even have filters for ethnicity. Are Italians more likely to go to an Italian restaurant than the Irish? So we're able to dice it up pretty finely.
And then you mentioned landing page earlier, so what's the connection between the email and the landing page? And by the way, we're going to be taking a break very, very shortly here. In fact, I think we're going to take it. We'll take it now, and we'll come back and we'll finish up with that.
We'd like to thank our advertisers and readers for their loyal support since 1991.
Linda and Mo Hafizi, owners of our Valley's two leading magazines, Elite and the Magazine of Santa Clarita.
The only magazine in our valley mailed to 80,000 homes and businesses every month, with over 250 pages of community news and features.
Discover how the Magazine of Santa Clarita can help your business. Call 294-4444.
Superior quality is second nature to us. Just ask our advertisers.
Coming to the Canyon, Santa Clarita, Puddle's Pity Party, Gordon Lightfoot, backed by popular demand, Vince Neil of Motley Crue, performing all the Motley Crue hits, Blue Oyster Cult, Faster Pussycat, Puddle of Mud, Cottonmouth Kings, the Marshall Tucker Band, Wilson Phillips, The Spinners, The Temptations, Herman's Hermits starring Peter Noon, Don McLean, Menopause the Musical, and much more. Plus country nights on Thursdays, and remember, the Canyon is the perfect place to host parties and special events. So book yours today. The Canyon, Santa Clarita, where music meets the soul. Tickets available through Ticketmaster.
Hi, this is Wendy Hassenflug, yoga and wellness entrepreneur. I'm excited to share one of the best kept secrets in Santa Clarita. Top Out Climbing Gym is one of my favorite places. Rock climbing is exceptional for building upper and lower body strength, and it improves your flexibility. Almost anyone can rock climb, and you don't have to be super fit to climb. You'll build strength and stamina while having fun at the same time. Get over to Top Out Climbing Gym in Center Point and challenge yourself to new heights.
They've been making us dance since the 60s.
Whenever you call me, I'll be there.
The Motown greats, The Spinners, coming to the Canyon Club Agura, Saturday, March 9th.
Whenever you need me, I'll keep working my way back to you, babe.
The Spinners, performing classic hits from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. The Spinners, and featuring Santa Clarita's own Savannah Burrows.
Maybe with someone else, I'll spend my time with maybe
Savannah Burrows and The Spinners.
someone else. I'll fall right in love with what would say.
The Spinners and Savannah Burrows, Saturday, March 9th, at the Canyon Club Agura. Tickets at Ticketmaster.
Your hometown station.
Welcome back. KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM Radio. You're listening to the Ask Brien Radio Show, AskBrien.com. And my co-host, Alex Grossman. Wake up, please. Are you there? Alex?
Absolutely, Mr. Brian Johnson.
I do not want you to fall asleep.
This
is very, very serious stuff. Everything on this show is very serious, and we try to teach people every week some business lesson. So before we get any further with our guest, Mr. John Jorgenson from max my customers. And he will max your customers, even though it's max my customers. So I wanted to know, let's say I'm starting out a business. I'm broke. I want to do this landing page and get some people. What would I do?
That's a great question. It really is. And, you know, a business owner, if they want to spend the time and the, and the effort, they can develop these tools themselves. There's some great self-use tools out there. We talked about Constant Contact and MailChimp. You can get on there. They've got all sorts of very professionally designed email templates that you can use. You can drop your own copy in there. You need to attach your own list of potential prospects, which is probably the most challenging part of the whole process. But you get on and you use these do-it-yourself email tools, and then you're going to program links onto what we've been talking about, which is landing pages, which again is a one-page website that is delivering a single message, because marketing is all about delivering a consistent message on a consistent basis. Everybody's seen the studies where it takes anywhere from 6 to 15 exposures for people to finally start paying attention to you. But there's equal tools out there to develop these landing pages. There's WordPress, there's Lead Pages, there's Instapage, all similar programs to like a Constant Contact, except they're in the landing page world. And they have professionally developed templates where you can drop your logo in. You can move things around and make sure that it's going to render properly, both on a computer and also mobile devices. So there's a lot of tools out there. If the small business owner has the time and the effort that they want to put into that, they probably want to get their teenagers involved, make it go a little faster. But but those tools are available.
Well, first of all, I would think that the most difficult part is creating that list. If you're not going to buy the list, I guess you could go to Google and type in your keywords and come up with companies, but you're not going to get it demographically based. You're probably going to get it worldwide based. Even if you do a local search, you're still probably going to get companies that are not necessarily based. They just may be trying to enter your demographic and geographical area. So I think that would be tough. I also think it would be tough to, ages and those type of any other demographic categories would probably be difficult if you're trying to do it on your own, as opposed to buying a list. Now, question for you: what is considered to be a successful email campaign based on percentages? So if I had a list
really good question.
I had 10,000. What would I expect?
Really good question. So there's a lot of variables there. Certainly, when you start out, and your numbers aren't going to be as successful as once you've worked and massaged and nurtured your list for a period of time. But our what we refer to our acquisition email marketing, which is what we're talking about here today, we feel like we're doing a really good job with each email if we're getting about a 6 to 8% open rate. And the open rate is dependent upon a couple things. The open rate is depending on, number one, getting your email delivered. So the email has to be constructed. And when I say constructed, I really mean constructed. I mean the HTML code has to be properly formatted. You can't have an overabundance of graphics to text in your emails. So they have to be constructed properly to get into the email box. And then your open rate is really dependent on your subject line. How much activity, how much interest are you generating with that subject line? And you don't want that subject line to be misleading, just to get your open rate up. Matter of fact, that's actually against the canned spam laws. Your subject line has to directly relate to your business, to your messaging. But if you're getting a 6 to 8 to 9% open rate, and then a click-through rate is going to be dependent upon what's the message inside. How attractive is that email? How much attention does it grab in that 8 to 11 seconds before somebody hits the delete button? So if we can get somewhere in the range of 4 to 7% of the people that open the email to click through to the landing page or the client's website, that's a successful campaign for us.
So we got to wrap it up, unfortunately, here. We're going to have you back in another week. But basically, if you've got a 6% rate on 10,000 people, that's about 60, and 4 to 7% of that, you're looking at about 2.4 to 4.2. So you're going to get about 3 out of 10,000. Is that correct? Well, we got to wrap it up. I'm sorry. We're going to have an answer to that question when we come back next week. Thank you very much for listening to AskBrien.com.